Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Avran LeFeber, and this is the boot breakdown of the Vans High Standard OG, their best-selling boot of all time, and what might be the most quintessential basic snowboard boot on the market. There's not a lot of bells and whistles to it. It's pretty straightforward, but we're gonna break it down. The big thing to talk about with the High Standard OG is that this is a very basic boot. It's very straightforward. A lot of people actually started in this boot. I had this boot. I had the Vans High Standard, and I want to say it was 1998 or 99. My mom bought me a pair from the house back in the day. They were baby blue, and they were a size 13 because she said I'd grow into them. I never grew into those, Mom. Ever. But thank you. The boot has kind of stayed the same. The shell has changed a little bit, and obviously the materials have, but who it's designed for is still relatively the same. It is a little bit of a bulkier boot, so don't expect a super low profile in this. It's gonna just stick out a little bit longer. While the sole might be a little bit lower profile, it's still lengthwise a bulky boot, and it's kind of chonky at the toe. So remember, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. We wouldn't have been able to do this video if it wasn't for Tactics Board Shop up in the Pacific Northwest. That's right, tactics.com for all your snowboarding needs and for people that support us doing videos like this for you. One of the first things you're gonna notice is on the shell, this is a little bit more of a durable material. This is just there to protect it. You got a lot of stitching down here, and it's single to double to triple, just to reinforce it. So if you're really cranking down right here with your ratchet, you might feel some pressure on that. That's gonna be a flex point in it. Even the laces are kind of recessed in, so that'll help protect them right down here when you're resting your board on that. The back spine, it's got enough rigidity that it's somewhat supportive, but you will probably crease this if you get a little too gnarly for your own good. But it does come up almost all the way to the back of the shell, so that's nice for giving it a little bit more added support. When it comes to the articulation in this, it's not the most. Like, it doesn't have a deep articulation, but you can tweak that with the way the laces fit through these eyelets. So if you want more articulation, instead of running it through the back eyelet, you'd only run it through the front one when you lace these up. That's just gonna give it more give. Or if you just want it in the back only, you could do that and then bring it across the top. You got options with it. Play around with them. They're laces. I expect you people to just get out there and tweak it where you can. Now, is it the most stiff boot? No, this thing is soft. It's a beginner flexing boot or a very soft park flex to it. With the tread on this, it's that old school Vans waffle. It's gonna grip to an extent, but if you're a foot shuffler walking around in the base area of Big Bear or whatever resort you're at and there's a lot of concrete, expect to wear this down. These just wear super aggressively. It's always been the case with it. If you're walking around in snow, not so much. Anything firmer, you're gonna feel it. This isn't gonna dampen a lot of impacts. You're gonna feel a lot of things with it. It's good for like a my first boot, or you're a park kid that just wants a lot of board feel, but if you actually need some support underneath, you might wanna bump up in the Vans line. The lacing option on this is standard traditional laces. If you don't know how those work, may God have mercy on your soul. You do have 3 cleats on the side so you can pull it in, and they do a pretty good job of locking it in place, but I would recommend that you do like the little cross tie before you pull it. Inside this boot, you do have the standard pull string harness sewn in. That's nice because it helps get that liner just a little more snug up with the shell. You're not gonna have as many issues with it. But like I said, it's a soft boot, so it kind of makes sense that they're doing this. They're just trying to get as much rigidity out of it because you're just gonna break this in as you ride it more. One thing to note is the more you use a boot, the softer it becomes. And then you've also got that heat retention 360 inside this boot. That's just to help refract heat back into the liner, keep you a little bit warm. I mean, there's obviously other issues with it, but it's nice to know that even on a boot at this price point, they do have it. Remember, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. I keep reiterating this point because there's a lot of people that do not understand that, and they size up in their boots, or they want it to match colors or whatever, and they don't get the right boot for them. Please don't be that person. Get the boot that fits you perfectly, please. Hey, have you given this video a thumbs up? Well, while you're down there and doing that right now, since I just called you out, why don't you subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the programming we've got coming out for you. And believe me, we've got so much programming. This boot has Vans' V1 Ultra Cush, so I think the foam in this isn't the most rigid. It's gonna pack out a lot, and it doesn't have a lot of crazy features. You get the neoprene on the toe, so if you got a longer index toe, it'll push out a little bit. You do get some Velcro on the tongue, so that holds it in place, which is nice. And when you get down into the liner, you got more of a U shape in the heel, but you got these aggressive J-bars in there. Some people end up feeling these, and they need to have them either molded, or they've got to slit the liner and pull some foam out from the outside. If you're feeling that pressure, it could be that your insole isn't sitting where you need it in there. You do get this nice little fantasy fur to help your foot slide down. And yes, that's actually what it's called, fantasy fur. It's got that big seam right there, so you may feel this down on your pinky toe as well. That's something to consider. You've also got this other giant seam right here, right where it comes up to where the instep crease and the opening is. You got to be a little bit worried about that. Some people might feel that, some people might not. It kind of depends on it. Externally, you have nothing added to this. It's not the most narrow, so this is going to be for a slightly wider ankle in there. So, you know, not the people that have like that V-shaped foot, but more like a U shape to the back of their foot. The footbed in this is better than a lot of other boots at this price point. You do get the Pop Cush V1, but it doesn't have the posting on it, so it is easier to collapse the arch in this. It's nice and thick, it's gonna help dampen for you, so if you're coming down, you're looking at impacts, it's just gonna stop you from getting bruised. But overall, I think this is better than a lot of other boots in this price range's stock insole. I personally would recommend that you replace this. Unless you go like 10 times or less a year, then it's probably gonna be absolutely perfect for you. Remember, the best boot is the one that fits your foot and fits your needs. So make sure you get sized properly, you find the boot that's flexing the way you want it, feels comfortable, because that's the boot for you. All I can do is slightly recommend stuff to you, but unless you go out there and try it on, get fitted properly, I can't do anything else for you. And if you're shopping online, which I strongly don't recommend, make sure the store you're shopping from, like Tactics, has a good return policy. When we measure this, at the very back, comes up to just under 11 inches. And then on the tongue, it's about the same actually. On the side, you got that little dip in there. So there's gonna be a little bit more given there. That's about 10.5 on the side. Measuring the shell at the back of the heel, comes to 10 inches, which means there's about an inch of liner that pops out. And then at the tongue, that also sits just a little over 10 at the side. We're looking at just under 10.5. So those guys with really long legs with big calves, these may pop out for you. So who is the high standard OG boot for? I think this is a good boot for someone starting out. They got a little bit of a wider forefoot, definitely a wider heel. They want a softer flexing boot that they can get into that's just gonna be comfortable. They're not looking for optimal performance, or someone that's like a jib kid that just wants to be able to have a boot that'll get the job done, but doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. They don't have to worry about things breaking. It's just meat and potatoes. Like I said, I think the heel of this is more of a U shape versus a V shape, so it's gonna be a little bit wider back there. The forefoot's also gonna be a little bit wider. If you're a really heavy rider though, I would recommend that you bump up to something a little stiffer, because I think you would flex right through this. Like what we're doing over here? Want to support us further? Swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. Alright, so hopefully we broke down the Vans High Standard OG, their best-selling boot of all time. Maybe this is the boot for you, maybe it's not. But you know what you did learn? What's inside this boot and what kind of features you can expect. Now if this isn't the boot for you, why don't you go watch one of our other boot breakdowns.